Job. I spent the last 3 weeks looking at his life. And today on Resurrection Sunday, we land at chapter 14. Job has lost his finances. Job has lost his family. And now he has a company of 3 friends who, instead of lifting his heart, break his spirit. His wife has given him the best news that she could. She told him, curse God and die. He sits on a heap from the crown of his head to the soles under his feet. He has boils, oozing sores, with a stench that can be smelt a mile away. He moves from that pile where he wishes he could die, but he can't. Death would be better than life for him. So he moves down from that garbage dump outside of town. He makes his way to a dry bed down by the riverside. And these are the words of the drama. As Job looks at life and sees nothing but vanity. Lost his family, his finances, and his friends. Man that is born of a woman is of few days, they're filled with trouble. He comes forth like a flower in the morning, then he withers. As a shadow, he's here, then he's gone. He's musing down by the riverside. And would you put your eyes on such a one and bring him into judgment with you? Who, God, can bring a clean thing out of an unclean? No, not one. You set his boundaries that cannot pass. His months are numbered. Like a hireling who has a few days. Man. Then he looks down and sees a tree stump dead. Says there's hope for a tree. What the scent of water. It comes back to life. But man, he dies, lays down, and never gets up again. Oh, that thou would hide me in the grave and appoint me a set time and remember me. Then he raises the question, if a man lives, if he dies, will he live again? All of my appointed time, I'll wait until my change comes. You will call, and I will answer. You will call for the work of your hands. Job had resurrection faith. And I tagged this text at that topic. If a man dies, will he live again? Job's resurrection faith. Whenever you feel as if life is unfair, read the book of Job. When you are at that place where you have more questions than answers, then give Job a read. When you are dealing with things that you've never dealt with before, look at his biography. And we might discover when we are dealing with things that we've never dealt with before, maybe God is trying to teach us something that we have never learned. It's true, when you are down to nothing, God is up to something. The wisdom of Rick Warren fits this place when he says that you will never know that God is all you need until God is all you have. Come and sit with Job for just a few moments. He had wealth, health, and a reputation. And in a flash, it was all gone. God has enrolled Job in the University of Adversity. He is a failing freshman because God is going to tell him some things that he's never told anyone before. When you are going through difficulty, let me suggest that you don't waste the pain. When you are being knocked down thinking that you're knocked out, don't waste it. When trouble comes to your house, don't bar the door, open it up, and allow yourself to sit with trouble every now and then. Because if you never had a problem, you will never discover that God could solve them. You need to know that when you're going through your darkest valley, that God is right there with you. God has enrolled Job in the University of Adversity. Job is involved in a divine demonic arrangement, and he did not get a vote. Can I tell you that sometimes God will volunteer you for things without your permission? There are some conditions that you won't get a vote on it. All of a sudden, there it is. And you've got to learn to deal with it. I think that you ought not to wait until stormy weather to buy an umbrella. He's enrolled in the University of Adversity. Sometimes you'll find yourself between a rock and a hard place. Then again, you'll find yourself between the devil and the deep blue sea. And it's too late to find courage when you're in the midst of an adverse situation. You can't find faith on the shelf of Walgreens, CVS, Safeway, or Lucky's. There are some things you've got to have before you need them, because when you need them and don't have them, you are up the creek without a paddle. Here Job is. Look at the curriculum he has to deal with. Setbacks, 101. Stumbling blocks, 202. Struggling, 303. Sarcastic wife theory. Sorry friends, 404. Suffering, 505. And then sickness in the advanced stages. All of that without his permission. So he's sitting down by the riverside. He's got time to think. When he was a famous farmer, he didn't have time. When he was dealing with his 10 children, time was a premium. But sometimes God will take business out of us to make us go down by the riverside. We won't stop by ourselves. You and I won't reflect on the changes of life on our own. Sometimes God has to force us to sit down. There he is, sitting down by the riverside. And he's thinking about the brevity of life. We're not here alone. 70 years is what Moses said. 80 years by reason of strength. He says, man that's born of a woman is of few days, and they are filled with trouble. Like a flower, he blooms, and by nightfall, faded away. You ever thought about it? Look at your life in terms of months and weeks. We are not here very long. When we are young, all we have to think about is playing. Oh, what a fun time. Every now and then, when I find myself in the University of Adversity, I think about running around Daniel Street, going up and down Paradise Hill Road. I was young. Didn't have to worry about anything. The greatest question of my day was, Mama, where is the milk and cookies? Fun was all I had to worry about. When somebody mentioned a light bill, I thought they was talking about some kind of bird. Nothing to worry about. You ever long for those times when you have to worry about rent and mortgage and hardships and getting up early and staying up late? When you're young, you don't have anything to really worry about. When you're young, you've got a lot of strength, but not much sense. And then you get older, Got a lot of sense, but no strength. When you are in your golden years, you think, won't nothing happen after I'm gone. And when you're young, you think nothing happened until you got here. He's right there sitting down by the riverside and saying about life, is this all there is to it? You and I often will not reflect on our own. You won't ask serious questions laying on a couch, becoming a couch potato and eating Lay's chips. You will never ask yourself serious questions, spending all day playing video games and looking at reality television. You will never contemplate serious matters, just laying around wasting your life away. But every now and then, God makes us sit down by the riverside. He allows us to deal with the serious things in life because we don't have long to stay here. And at some point, you and I have to get serious about the issues of life and death. We hide our cemeteries, often way outside of town, and we grow tall only in the bushes to hide them because we don't want anybody to remind us that we're going to die. We attend funerals for one or two reasons. First, to make sure they're dead, and secondly, to make sure it's not us. We don't like to talk about death. But Good Friday and Sunday morning on Easter is a good time to talk about death. Because we don't talk about death no other time. That's what happened to everybody else. But since this is Resurrection Sunday, let's talk about death. I know that you don't plan to die. I know that. But one day you're going to wake up dead. And since one day you're going to wake up dead, and this is the time to talk about death, let me ask you a question. Do you have burial insurance? Do you have a will or a living trust? I know when you die, you're going to heaven because you know one verse, absent from the body, present with the Lord. But while you are dead, somebody has to bury you. Do you have life insurance? Who's going to get that fake mink coat? All right, the real mink coat. If you really want baby sister to have that diamond, you better either give it to her while you're alive or write it down. Why are you saying that, Pastor? Because I'm tired of refereeing families after somebody's died. And I've got to get them to speak to each other before the funeral. Because your loved ones don't want to cremate you. They want to have a great, big, expensive funeral. But if you don't leave nothing, we got to burn you. And the only thing we hope is you don't burn twice. We can talk about this because Easter Sunday. Life is brief. We didn't come here to stay. Why don't you remember the time when you were young and you could run all day and never get tired? Now you need oxygen. Come on now. That was the day you could eat everything you wanted. Chitlins, macaroni and cheese, fish cobbler, sweet potato pie, red velvet cake. Now you eat it in the morning, and by afternoon you can see it all over you. We're not here very long. Life is brief. And there are some questions that you got to answer. Where will I go? When I lay down, never to rise again? Where do I stand with the triune God? Sometimes I'm telling you that God will enroll you in a universe of adversity to get you to ask questions in the dark that you'll never ask during the daylight. Sometimes God will allow us to be knocked down so we can look up. Because the only time we think about God, so we're going through things that we can't handle. But God will enroll us as a freshman in the University of Adversity or the City College of Calamity. And you'll have to ask yourself, what is life all about? What am I dealing with? Here's Job down by the riverside. He's lost everything. And God has allowed him to see these things. He sees a tree, stump, dead, down by the river in a dry bed. He watches it day after day. When you got nothing to do, you just look at things. You observe things. When there's nothing else to do, you don't have a job to go to, you watch things. You look at things. He watches the tree. He comes to the conclusion. At the scent of water, this tree comes back to life. And he wonders, how is it that a tree can die and come back to life, but man dies and is laid down and never gets up again? He's wrestling with God. He's trying to deal with things too large for him. Sometimes people ask me, anything you don't know about God? I say, yes. I know less about him than I know about him. Because the closer you get to God, the more you realize, the less you know. I've got more questions than I've got answers. I don't know why the good suffer. I don't know why people who take care of themselves get cancer. And folks smoke 35 years, 6 months, 3 days, 30 minutes, and 10 seconds, and never get sick. I don't know why somebody treats their spouse like they ought to, and their spouse acts a fool. And somebody else treats their spouse like a dog, and the spouse treats them like gold. I don't know. There are a lot of questions. Why are the sick? Why the dead? Why the weak? Why the strong? That's why the song says, we'll understand it better by and by. Every now and then, God puts you in solitary confinement so that you can ask questions that you will never ask while you're walking around the courtyard. If man dies, will he live again? That's the greatest question in the Old Testament. Job was at the pinnacle of thought, critical thinking. If a man lays down, will he get up again? I want to know. Life has been unfair to me, Job said. I've done everything right, and my children are dead, my wife is sarcastic, and my friends are sorry. Is that all there is to life? Then Job has what the psychologists call an aha moment. All of a sudden, it seems the mist is rolled away. All of a sudden, it seems that the sun shines upon his mind. And it says, I know, chapter 19, verse 25, I know that my Redeemer liveth. And at the last day, there'll be somebody, somewhere, I don't know who he is, but there'll be somebody somewhere who will justify me. It may take forever, but I'll go to my grave believing that there is somebody who will care for me. I'm telling you, this is the height of the Old Testament thought. Nobody's ever raised the question of resurrection. When God allows you to go through things you've never gone through, he's trying to teach you something that nobody else knows. So don't waste it. There was a tadpole convention, a mass convention of tadpoles under the water. The moderator of the tadpole convention called a meeting to order and said, is there any new business? And then this young tadpole raised his hand and said, Brother Chair, a few of us have been sticking our head up out of the water, and we have breathed this exhilarating thing called air. It makes you feel so alive. And we just wondered, what do you think about this idea of lifting your head out the water and breathing air? The chair of the tadpole convention says, that's ridiculous. I don't know where you get these crazy thoughts about tadpoles breathing air and sticking their heads from under the water. Everybody knows that tadpoles always breathe air and stay under the water. But frog just started walking out of the water and now on the land. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got. Every now and then, stick your head out the water and breathe something called air. Job has lifted human thought to the highest level. Man, if he dies, will he live again? And Job went to sleep without ever really knowing the answer. But then one day, outside of Bethany, comes this lonely itinerant preacher by the name of Jesus. And Mary and Martha meets them at the road and says, Lord, if you had been here, our brother would not have died. Jesus said, you'll see your brother again. So yes, I know, at the resurrection. And Jesus says something that had never been said before. He says, I am the resurrection. And though a person dies in me, he'll live again. Show me where you laid him. No, Lord. It's been 4 days. He's already stinking. Sometimes God will allow us to experience darkness until we don't think there's any light. And then he'll step in. Why? Because sometimes when God rescues us too soon, we don't give him the glory. Show me where you laid him. He went to Lazarus' tomb and said, Lazarus, come forth. If he had not called him by name, every dead person that ever lived would have got up. Come forth. And Lazarus came. The good news of Easter is where you are now does not have to be where you stay. That your situation, no matter how great or no matter how drear, is temporary. If you can just say to yourself, Mom, Dad, this too shall pass. Every knockdown is not a knockout. And sometimes God allows us to live long enough to get to that place where we know that if God doesn't do it, it just won't get done. I am the resurrection is a word to you today. Don't you give up when you're going through Sorrow's Valley. Don't you give up when the hounds of hell are on your heels. Don't you give up when sickness riddles your body as an unsolved puzzle. Don't you give up when your mind is racing 1,000 miles an hour and you don't know what to do. Don't you quit when those that you love don't love you anymore. Don't you die until you know there's something to live for. The resurrection is a reminder that where you are now is not always where you're going to be. And Job experiences that. Resurrection, faith. Jesus died on that Friday. And 1 Peter 3:19 says that sometime between Friday at 3 and early Sunday morning, Jesus went down into the depths of hell, knocked on the door. So I just stopped by to tell you all that Job was right. If a man dies, he will live again. Job, he called him by name. Job, come on out. Today you'll be with me in paradise. I conclude with this. You ever thought about it? He looks at a tree. He sees something in a tree. Something about a tree. That first tree in the Garden of Eden. That first tree messed us up. Something about a tree. A tree will mess you up. A tree. But then on Calvary, there's another tree. If a tree will mess you up, then a tree will fix you up. He was hung up for our hang-ups. And there's a tree over in glory that's good for the healing of the nations. He died on a tree for you and for me to remind us, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. The resurrection is not just about candy and clothes. It's about Christ. That he lives, he reigns forevermore. And right here, right now, he is as alive today as he ever was. And he says to you and I, listen, doesn't matter where you are. Doesn't matter what you're going through. I am the resurrection. If I got up, then you can get up. Look cancer in the face and said, you can't kill me. You can mess my body, but you can't touch my soul. Tell that broken relationship, though I'm broken on the inside, I'll never give up on the outside. Speak to that death that you're dealing with and your loved ones. Says that if there's a grave, there's a glorious resurrection. And I'm not going to give up. That's all the resurrection is. A reminder. Don't you quit. Don't you give up. Don't you stop. Because God is alive. He's alive. He's alive. He's alive. He's alive. And listen, because he lives, we can also live.